I screened this story, City of Dreams, okay? And I was so touched by the story of a young boy who was trafficked across the Mexican border and enslaved in a sweatshop in LA. And this is based on a true story. It's about this boy's courage to stand up against his captors. He had the courage to fight. And he fought for his freedom, and he fought to free these other children. And I wept at the end of the story, like you all will, and like the 100 celebrities that all signed on with us to help to raise awareness on this. And I talked to him till 2 a.m. And the next day at 9 o'clock, I immediately called him. I got to my office and I said, you know what, I'll give you the money. And, now we've brought the film to 775 screens. It was going to get out in 75 screens, like many independent films do. And I said, you know what? It's so important to raise awareness on this topic. And I'll get into some of the issues. I've become very, very smart, kind of an advocate to protect children now throughout this journey over the last 6 months that I've been involved. So I embraced supporting this film, and have now started a film company called Manor House Films, and I feel great about it. I would like to bring, we're saying that we're going to make films that matter, and I think that it's so important right now with all this stuff that's going on to try to back films like this that have important purpose and meaning.
Yeah, I agree, and it's sad that it's not a rare thing about what you're saying with the child who was trafficked across the border. That's happening all across this country right now.
But so they dropped the film recently. I mean, so I mentioned this early in the intro that there's videos from Kevin Posobiec where he goes to the, like you go to buy movie tickets and you pick by the ticket and that shows you all the seats and then you pick your seats. They're all blocked out. And we heard similar things with Sound of Freedom. It seemed like they're trying to block this film, which is weird. But now we're hearing that you're saying it was dropped from like 500 theaters?
Yeah, I mean, just to be fair to everybody in the movie theaters and everything, I saw the same report as well. And so I'm not saying anything like that had happened where they're, trying not to sell the tickets. But there's some kind of funny stuff going on right now. The one thing that I know is that our distributor, Roadside Attractions, these two wonderful men, Howard and Eric, run that company, and they support independent films. They've made 200 films now, and they're our distributor. Unfortunately, a couple days ago, they notified me that the theaters, Regal, AMC, Cinemark, they decided to reduce our theater count from 775 to 225. For this weekend. It's our second weekend.
Wow.
Like, what about supporting films that matter? What about helping raise awareness for these children? Like, we are devastated right now. We have a very loving group of people that we've done media and TV. We've raised all this awareness out there.
Do you think
but no, real quick, like what movies are out right now?
Beetlejuice.
I know. I'm looking forward to watching Beetlejuice. I am. But like,
that's all I can think of.
I'm willing to bet that if I pull up a local theater, they're gonna be playing reruns. I don't know how you describe it, but old movies. Let's see, these are all coming soon. Deadpool and Wolverine is out. Twisters. It just seems strange to me that they would pull the film from so many theaters when there's really there's what's the competition? What are they making space for?
Even though the movie's not explicitly political, the things it talks about get political when people talk about those things, depending on who's in office and all that stuff. Do you think that has something to do with it there?
Yeah, I think that Hollywood overall and the media right now has an issue with child trafficking and some of these issues like pedophilia for some reason. I just don't know why that some of these issues that are out there aren't spoken about more broadly. It's just so unusual. There's a reporter named Hannah Dreyer at the New York Times. I can give you the link. There's one link that goes to over 20 articles that she's written. She's done an incredible job reporting on the problem at the border. I do believe that part of the pushback, I think, from media and maybe from Hollywood overall is that the flawed policies at the border that this movie is highlighting, that potentially it's giving
election season.
It's giving a big boost to President Trump, because President Trump was very vocal a number of years ago in talking about how the flawed border policy could impact and hurt children, among other problems with the large migration at the border.
If you listen to the whistleblower who is from the Health and Human Services from about a year ago,
Yep.
and you take her word, she makes it sound like Biden and Harris oversee a human trafficking ring at the border. And how many children have gone missing? Hundreds of thousands?
Yeah, it's hundreds of thousands. Just to kind of back up, I could kind of explain it in an easy way that a lot of people might be able to understand, just from, trying to just be a simple man. What I think has happened, okay, and I could talk about two legs of child exploitation and trafficking. And I'm going to first talk about the leg of many of these children that came across the border. And then I'm going to talk about child labor overall and how we all have a responsibility as consumers to buy products that aren't made, okay, from child labor from our U.S. corporations. And I believe that there needs to be new legislation and laws that focus on making sure that the products that we use every day aren't made by slave labor anywhere in the world, okay? Because this is a very important issue, not just in the United States, but across the world. So let me first go back and talk about how I see what happened with hundreds of thousands of children that are being exploited in the United States right now as a result of flawed border policies. A number of years ago, some of the policies were loosened somewhat, and that some of the unaccompanied migrant children were welcomed into the U.S. Okay, it used to be that you could go to a uncle or an aunt or a parent, and then the rules were changed, and now you could go to a sponsor. So these traffickers in Central and South America had sort of gamed the system and realized that they could just dump kids at the border and they would be welcomed in. They were trafficking the children just like they traffic drugs. And they pitched families, very poor families in places like Guatemala, that these children might have a better life in the U.S. And these parents, I mean, as a parent, I couldn't even think about having an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid and giving them away. But these countries have such poverty, and it's so difficult for them that I think these parents just believed that maybe they were giving a better opportunity for their child. And so many of these traffickers would load up 12 kids in a Suburban and take them to the border and dump them off.
Can I say something really quick before you continue? Is there's even in Guatemala, they play radio ads and they have Facebook ads targeting young underage children saying, come to America. And it's the traffickers doing that to bring them to the border to then...
Yeah, they're making $3,000 to $5,000. I saw the same thing, and it's just unbelievable. Like, there's a whole business saying we can. I mean, or the kids are joining these marches, and they're given to another adult they don't know, and the kids just walk away and march for days and days and make it to the border. Anyway, so the kids get to the border. If you go back and look at all the news reports, there were tent cities across the border with hundreds and hundreds of children. Okay, so the children made it to the border. The real big issue that Hannah had reported on, and honestly, I just cannot believe that the news wasn't reporting on this back then in 21, 22, 23. She really did this expose in 2023, and she's still reporting on it in 24. She found that some of the sponsors on this side of the border, okay, had 20 kids. And that the traffickers, in fact, which are bad guys, recommended the sponsor name of somebody in Minnesota. There's a big hotbed in Minnesota. There's Texas and Florida. So the bad guys were giving the sponsor name to bad guys over here. And then she had found through her investigative reporting that some of these houses had 15 and 20 kids sleeping like sardines in 2 bedrooms, and that 15 passenger vans were picking these kids up and working from like 8 p.m. till 3 in the morning for kids that are 12, 13, 14 years old. These are like babies. And then she reported that a lot of the kids told her that the sponsor families were charging every kid in the house $500 of rent. None of the kids are in school. Like, this is human trafficking. This is awful. I learned about this, okay, when I watched the movie from the director, and I was like, what? Why isn't anybody doing anything about this? I'm like, I'll do something about it. I'm like, I've got a lot of resources. I'm a very, very blessed man, and I should be focusing on helping. And that's why I got involved in this whole thing. Since then, I've got quite a bit smarter, and I've met a lot of people that are trying to make a change, but they're pushing up against a lot of the media. Nobody wants to talk about these issues right now because, unfortunately, it is a bit political. And so,
but so hold on. I mean, is Kamala Harris going to make this problem persist, make it worse, or ignore it, or what?
I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter if you're on the left. It doesn't matter if you're on the right. It doesn't matter if you're black or white or Latino. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody in America needs to protect and save our children. Everybody in America needs to talk about this issue right now. And that's one of the things that this movie is highlighting. This is why this director, Mohit, made the whole story. His intent was to raise awareness on this topic. And it's just, it honestly, that it's one of the most important things going on in our country right now.
It's funny because the media cared a lot about kids in cages, you know, all those years ago. Do you think they'd put that same emotion into this? But it's political, and they won't. So they ignore it, and they sweep it under the rug. And that's a real shame because it shouldn't be political at all. But I don't think a lot of the people on the left and the media care about protecting children.
The scary thing is that right now, people are more interested in winning for the party than they are for solving the problems this country is facing or that these child victims are facing. And that terrifies me. You know, we were just talking about this before the show. I was talking about this with some family and friends. To me, it feels like the collective IQ of the United States has dropped by about 10 points over the past 5 to 10 years. And maybe that's a really crude way of explaining it or describing the phenomenon I'm seeing. But it really seems like, you know, what is it? How we can see a human being, someone like for me personally, people that I've known for a long time. And if I went to them 7 years ago and said, should we look at these children who are being trafficked? I mean, this is horrifying. Should we do something about it? They'd be like, wow, that's messed up. Today, they're just like, why are you against Kamala Harris? And I'm just like, I don't understand. That's not happening. You're wrong. Like, what happened to the ability to think and reason and question? It is terrifying to me that we're at the point where you're not even getting political on the issue. You're saying, hey, we shouldn't let these kids be trafficked. This is horrible. And they're like, well, you know, we could stop it, but it'd be bad for our team.